Hello, and welcome to the photo story. Until well into the 1500s, most Europeans saw little difference between science and magic. Alchemists used spells and magic formulas to try and change one substance to another, for example, lead into gold. Roger Bacon, an English philosopher and scientist of the 1200s. Bacon was a Franciscan monk who had studied at Oxford and Paris and was viewed as the leading scholar of his time. He also became known as the Doctor Mirabilis. During the scientific revolution, people began using experiments and mathematics to understand these mysteries. In the early 1500s, scientists spent more time examining the world around them and began to question ancient beliefs. They began to form conclusions based on what they could observe with their own senses. Then came along their three new tools: scientific instruments, mathematics, and experiments. These new tools formed a new way of learning and marked new beginnings of the scientific revolution. People began to learn more and become smarter, which led to the inventions of the barometer, the microscope, the telescope, the air pump, and the thermometer. Copernicus is said to be the founder of modern astronomy. He was born in Poland, eventually was sent to Krakow University to study mathematics and optics. Copernicus was appointed as a canon in the cathedral at Freudenberg, where he spent a sheltered and academic life for the rest of his days. Copernicus painted and translated Greek poetry into Latin. Copernicus began to abandon Ptolemy's geocentric theory. He argued that the sun was the center of the universe. He is viewed today as the founder of modern astronomy. Copernicus died in 1543. It was never to know what a stir his work had caused. It went against the philosophical and religious beliefs that had been held during the medieval times. The most important aspect of Copernicus's works is that it forever changed the place of man in the cosmos. No longer could man legitimately think his significance greater than his fellow creatures. Like Copernicus, Kepler believed that the sun was the center of the universe. Kepler's book New Astronomy instantly created a sensation with his thoughts of elliptical planetary motion that were proved by Brahe's observations. Even though the model was perfect in terms of its predictive power, it still had a number of problems. It did not explain why the Earth did not fall out from under us when we jumped. Kepler is responsible for finding the three laws of planetary motion. Kepler's mother was accused of witchcraft and would have been burned at the stake if he had not defended her. Unlike others who believed that the earth revolved around the sun, Kepler was a very faithful Catholic. Galileo Galilei was born on February 15, 1564, in Pisa, Italy. Galileo pioneered experimental scientific method and was the first to use a refracting telescope to make important astronomical discoveries. Galileo believed scientific study would change the way people understood themselves and their world. He felt he could lead to higher standards of living at every level of society. He also believed that science would weaken the social and economic barriers that separated people. The church kept Galilei from teaching or writing about his ideas because they challenged the traditional beliefs. Galileo built his own device, the telescope, off of an early Dutch device he heard about that made objects larger. He was the first to see the craters on the moon, the rings around Saturn, the spots on the sun, and the moons circling Jupiter. He used the observations to argue that not every heavenly body revolved around Earth. His teachings and inventions caused an uproar because they went against what many people believed. Andreas Vesalius was a Flemish scientist who pioneered the study of anatomy. He refused to accept descriptions of human muscles and tissues written by Galen 1400 years before. In 1543, he published On the Fabric of the Human, which was a 7-volume book. He helped readers gain visual understanding of the body and drew illustrations of the human body that were amazingly detailed for his time. William Harvey was an English scientist who studied the circulation of the blood throughout the body. He described how it moved through the veins and arteries, observed the workings of the heart, and was recognized as the medical leader of his day. Okay. René Descartes was a leader of the scientific revolution. His achievements better us in fields of mathematics, the sciences, and philosophy. He believed everything had to be proven by facts. Descartes wrote, "I think, therefore I am." Francis Bacon was an English philosopher and a scientist around the same time as Descartes. Bacon believed that no theory could be trusted without consistent results through repeated physical experiments. And from the long line of Bacons descends Kevin Bacon, winner of a Golden Globe and a SAG Award. This would make Francis very proud. During the 1500s and the 1600s, scientific discoveries were made throughout Europe. German thinker Gottfried Leibniz and thinker Isaac Newton both separately developed calculus. Dutch scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek used the microscope to discover bacteria that at the time he called animalcules. Robert Boyle, an English-Irish scientist, helped pioneer modern chemistry. The first element to be discovered was oxygen by Joseph Priestley. Before Antoine Lavoisier, people believed that fire was an element. He showed that fire was a result when a substance rapidly combines with oxygen.